What's up, guys? Welcome back to Project Parker. Welcome back to Project Potter. My name is Kyle, your host, guys. And guys, this is the final movie before No Way Home. Guys, we're doing Spider-Man Far From Home. We're so excited. My name is Kyle, your host, guys. We got the Iron Spider suit. We got the Santa hat because it's Christmas time. We got the Tony Stark glasses. We got Edith glasses here, guys. We're rolling, guys. We're rolling in the deep. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. My name is Kyle, your host, guys. If you like the content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. Go check out the content, guys. Every single night, we've been bringing you Spider-Man in reviews. And guys, we started with Spider-Verse. We're here with Far From Home. This is the last one. Tomorrow night, I'm going to see No Way Home. Super excited. Cannot wait, guys. Guys, this is a damn movie, let me tell you. And guys, if you haven't seen the show before, first of all, welcome. Second of all, guys, we do my favorite scenes, some of the worst scenes or issues I had with the movie, the score out of 10, and a rankings. Guys, welcome to No Way Home. And this, like I said, is a damn film. And let me start off, guys, with some of my favorite scenes. How do we start this movie? Nick Fury and Maria Hill, they show up, and they're like, oh, I don't know, this was a disaster, but do we really need to be involved? Guess what, guys? They said the cyclone had a face on it. Oh, who's responsible for that? Motherfucking Mysterio, dude. Jake Gillies is here. The Nightcrawler himself, he's back, dude. He's here to be Mysterio, Quentin Beck. And he's like, you guys don't want to be a part of this. And then, guys, we get probably the greatest opening in Marvel cinematic history, where we get, I think it's Celine Dion's, and I will always love you. Dude, fucking amazing. Could you ever imagine that song going over that intro? No. But it works so well, guys. And it's so good. And we get we get Peter Parker in Spider-Man. And guys, let me tell you, all the issues I had with No Way Home, it's like they took all of those issues and they were like, fixing this, fixing this, fixing this, fixing this. Guys, does Peter interact with his classmates more in this one? Yep. Does he become more relatable? Yep. Is he more mature in this movie? Yep. Is he much more ready for Spider-Man after kind of going through the events of Endgame and Infinity War? Yep. Guys, that's a big thing of this movie. This is the blip. They talk about the blip, which is everyone that got snapped 5 years past, they came back. There's a great scene where they're like, oh, my little brother is now older than me. It's fucking weird. They're doing like a school thing. And he's like, shit's crazy. And they're like, whoa, no swearing, dude. And he's like, it's the last day of school. What are they going to do? And this thing is all about, Spider-Man Far From Home, where he is going far from home. They go to Prague. They go to Italy, I think, maybe, wherever they first go. They go to all these different locations, guys. And, Peter's like, I don't want to wear the suit. I'm on vacation. It's a school trip. But Aunt May, now that she knows, she's like, yo, bring your suit just in case you need your suit. And he's like, nah, I don't need my suit, dude. But Aunt May packs it the last second. It's so great because Peter goes through the airport and they pull him over and he's like, I promise there's nothing in there. And then they pull up the suit. I'm like, oh, shit. And then Aunt May's like, thought you'd forget this. And then the European people are like, there's a fucking banana in here, dude. Why do you have this goddamn banana in here? Which is funny because Aunt May earlier, she's like, yo, think fast. And she throws a banana at him, fucking hits him right in the chest, dude. And he's like, oh. And she's like, oh, well, you can dodge bullets, but you can't dodge a banana. Great line. Got me laughing, dude. This movie is just fantastic, dude, from start to finish. This is a great watch. This is a top-tier MCU movie, and I'm going to tell you guys why. There's so much good stuff in here, guys. Like I said, all the issues I had with No Way Home, with Homecoming, I feel like they solved literally all of those issues, guys. There's a great plane sequence. Ned's like, we're going to be American bachelors. He's like, you know what European women love? He's like, American guys. And he's like, you know what, dude? There's over half of the population is women. He's like, we're gonna roll with that because Peter's like, no, I want to sit with MJ. And he's like, nah, dude, we're going to roll as bachelors. And then what does Ned do? He creates like a fake allergy because he's like, oh, Peter's allergic to perfume. He needs to go sit next to MJ. And then Guilfoyle is like, oh, I don't mess around with perfume allergies. He's like, I get it. He's like, you know what? You sit here, you sit here. Ben, who's like the hot guy that like they're saying like everyone's after Ben. He comes back and he's blipped or whatever. Or he's not blipped and he's hot and everyone's after him. And Peter's like, nah. And he's like, no, everyone's after him. Ben comes over. He sits next to MJ, which is funny because Peter gets like a dual headset so he can like watch movies with MJ. Well, guess what, dude? He gets sat next to Guilfoyle and then Ned gets sat next to this chick who he's like, whatever. And he's like, oh, do you want to play this PC game? And she's like, no. And he's like, you ever played a PC game? She's like, no. And he's like, all right. But then she actually thinks it's really cute how into it he is. So like, it's so funny because they land and Peter's like watching Ben and MJ like kind of flirt. And he's like, oh, And then we get a great scene, guys, where Guilfoyle is telling Peter, did I tell you guys about how my wife fake blipped? And Peter's like sitting there, he's like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, she ran off with her hiking instructor. And he's like, yeah, there was a funeral. Funeral felt really real. I thought she was dead. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, this is so funny that they would put this in there. And it's just the humor hits on every level in this movie. Peter obviously is looking at the love of his life, the love of his high school life, at least. Flirt with Ben, and he's like, oh my God. And then Ned is like hitting it up there. They land, and then Ned, he's like, oh my God, I couldn't talk to MJ at all. And he's like, MJ and Ben were watching movies the whole time. And Ned is like, don't even worry about that, dude. I'm sure it's inconsequential. And then his girl comes over, and she's like, hey, babe, can I get this thing? And he's like, yeah, babe, don't worry. Don't even worry about it, babe. And it's like a new relationship where they call each other babe the whole time. And it's so great. And he's like, what is this? And he's like, oh, we just like have a lot in common, and we got along, and now we're dating. And it's like, and Peter's like, oh my God, dude. It's just so great, dude. The whole movie where not only, guys, is Quentin Beck great, we see Nick Fury. Nick Fury comes into Peter's like room, and it's so great because everyone keeps knocking, and they're like, Peter, there's a huge water elemental, guys. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time on that, but it's really cool. And Mysterio comes in, and he's like, messing with it, and Peter's like, hey, I can help. He's like, I'm sticky and I'm super strong. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the best way you want to put it, Peter. And he puts on like a jester mask because he left his suit in the hotel, but he's still trying to help out. He's swinging around, and I'm like, all of his classmates would see that he's swinging around wearing the same fucking outfit that he was just wearing, but we're going to forgive that, guys, because he helps Quentin, and Quentin defeats him, and he's like, oh, great. And then he kind of goes away. But Nick Fury shows up, guys, in his hotel room, and he's like, Mr. Parker, he's like, you're a hard one to get hold of. And he's like, you've been ghosting my calls. And we get a great scene. I forget if it's earlier or after this, but Happy is like, hey, Nick Fury's calling you. Oh, I think it's when Peter's presenting with Aunt May. He's got the spider suit on, guys, and he's presenting with Aunt May. And he's like, thank you very much, and happy to be here. And it's like very stiff, and Aunt May is like, you're a little stiff there. And he's like, oh yeah, I know. And he's talking to May like they're colleagues. It's great. Nick Fury's calling. He's like, I don't want to talk to Nick Fury. He's like, Nick Fury needs me. He's like, no, he's gonna call the Avengers or something. He's like, he doesn't need me. And Happy's like, dude, you gotta call Nick Fury. And he like hangs up on him, and he's like, you just sent Nick Fury to voicemail. He's like, you don't send Nick Fury to voicemail. He's like, I'm afraid of him. And he's like, if he sends you to voicemail, he calls me, and I don't want to talk to him. And he calls him, and he's like, hey. He's like, Happy's like, oh, he's not ghosting you at all. And it's just great, dude, because Peter's like ignoring Nick Fury, which is great. And so Nick Fury eventually shows up. He's like, hey, we need your help. There's a threat. He brings him in. He meets Quentin Beck, and he's like, hey, Quentin Beck. And he's like, oh, everyone's calling you like Mysterio. And he's like, what? And he's like, oh, that's just what the news is calling you. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm from another dimension, and this is the first introduction of the multiverse, guys. And I was like, oh shit, I completely forgot all this is in here. Where he's like, what do you mean? He's like, this is from Earth, but not your Earth. And he's like, he's from another one. But then we find out that Quentin is like a huge scam artist at the end. So I'm like, is this real or not? And obviously the multiverse is real. We'll find out more about that tomorrow night, guys, in No Way Home. But Quentin, yeah, he's great, dude. Jake Gyllenhaal, how can you not love Jake Gyllenhaal, dude? He's so awesome in this movie. And I just love Jake Gyllenhaal. And he just immediately fits in the MCU. Like, he's just a power character right away. And Peter's kind of wrestling with it and trying to figure out his place. And he goes to see Nick Fury, and he's like, take off your mask, dude. He's like, everyone here has seen you without the mask. He's like, they all know who you are. And so he goes there, and they talk about these elements. And this part I thought was kind of weak, but he's like, this earth, fire, wind, and earth element maybe. And he's like, Quentin was able to defeat the other three in his time, but the fire one destroyed his home. And he's like, this is the one that's going to show up to earth. And I was like, this is a little weird. This reminded me of like kind of like Eternals, where it's like, oh, there's these deities coming, and I'm like, are they coming? Like, what? This is kind of weird, but it's very generic bad guy. But Quentin is so good, and Nick Fury is like, we need your help, and Peter's like, whoa, my help? He's like, dude, I got classmates there. He's like, I want to have summer vacation, and he's like, I can't do this. And he's like, oh, because your teacher's going to get mad at you. He's like, look, I appreciate the offer. He's like, I can't do this. And Nick Fury's like, okay, well, we'll let you get back to your teacher then, so your teacher doesn't get worried. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. He's like, thank you. He's like, have a good night. And Marie Hill's like, yep. And then it turns out that like they're going to Prague, because he's like, we need you in Prague. Peter's like, yo, I got to get back to my field trip. And then the Guilfoyle comes out, and he's like, guess what? We got a free upgrade to Prague. He's like, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. We're going to Prague. And Peter's like, oh, my God. And he's like, Nick Fury just made that whole trip. And it's like the Nick Fury henchman is like holding the sign, and they're getting the bus, and they're going to Prague. And it's just awesome, dude. We get a great bus scene where Peter puts on the Edith glasses from Tony Stark, and it's like, hello, Peter. And he's like, whoa. And he's like, what's going on here? And there he like finds out what text messages are sending, and he's like I can listen in. He's like, I don't want to listen in, and he's like, that's messed up. But he like sees what's happening. It's like Ned and his girlfriend saying like, hey, miss you, babe, or whatever, and it's funny. And then he sees Ben and MJ, and they're like, is Ben Parker or not Ben Parker? Sorry, he's like, is Ben a threat? And he's like, oh, what? No. And then missile sends. It's like, do you want to cancel the drone strike against Ben? And he's like, what? No. And then it keeps going, obviously. And so he's like, look at the baby goats or whatever. And he jumps out of the roof, which I thought was kind of ridiculous, guys. But then he like whips at the drone, takes out the drone, and I'm like, all right, Peter Parker. But somehow no one noticed that he was Peter. No one noticed that he jumped through the fucking roof. It was a little bit of a stretch, but I do think it was nice. We get just much better interaction between Peter and Zendaya, guys. I hated her character in Homecoming. I think she's much, much better in this one. She's got much better chemistry. She's into him. Peter's like trying to get with her the whole movie, and then Ben's into her, and then Ben finds Peter like there's like a Russian agent or whatever, and she gives him the stealth suit, and she's like, take off your clothes now. And he's like, what? She's like, take off your clothes and put on the suit. And he's like, oh, I'm sure it'll fit fine. And then Ben walks in, he's like, oh, I thought this was a bathroom. And they're like, no, dude, this is a fucking super secret lab where I get the stealth suit, obviously. And Ben is like, oh, okay. And then Ben is a douchebag because he's like, oh, and he takes a picture and he's like, look, Peter, whoever you want to hook up with. And he's like, no, that's not what it seems like. And it's like, oh, dude, we thought Ben was cool, but Ben's actually just a douche. And like later on, we see the opera scene, guys, where they're like, everyone goes to the opera, and Peter, it's so cute because Peter and MJ are like, hey, do you want to go like split these opera glasses? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I'll be right there. And then Nick Fury is like, yo, where are you, Parker? And he's like, oh, no. And she's like, no. And he's like, just go and I'll meet you there in a minute. And then he sees Ned, and then he's like, hey, tell MJ I got sick or something. And he's got to leave to go fight the elemental. But MJ is disappointed. And then like Ben looks over and Ben flips him off. And I was like, fuck you, Ben. Like, who are you, dude? You're no one. And so Ben goes and sits next to MJ intentionally. And like MJ is into her. Ben is into MJ too. And Peter's like, dude, fuck off, man. Like, but it's okay because MJ isn't into Ben, thank God. But I wish they would have teased that a little bit more. But MJ is looking at Peter. She's trying to figure out he's Peter. Eventually, at the end, guys, she's like, yo, you're Spider-Man? And he's like, what? He's like, what? Why would you think I'm Spider-Man? And she's like, dude, I've been following you for a while. She's like, you left Washington, you did this, you did that. And he's like, what? And she's like, you're Spider-Man. I get it. It's cool. And he's like, how did you know that? And it's like, then they figure it out, and it's great because it's like, they finally know. Aunt May knows, and Zendaya knows. Or MJ, I should say, and Ned knows, and it's like, cool, now we have a little crew. Eventually, guys, we find out that Beck is doing like he's just creating illusions, and there's a great reveal, guys, where Beck is just taking us all for a loop, where it's like a big reveal. It's almost like the reveal of Michael Keaton being Liz's dad. This is probably a big reveal where Quentin Beck is like, oh my God, someone get the suit off me. And he gets the suit off, and he's like, Tony Stark laughed at me, and we find out that he worked with Tony Stark, and we get the scene where I forget what movie it's in, but it's a great, amazing scene where Tony uses like the technology. He like recreates himself as a young man, and it's like his dad and mom, and it's like when it's like that scene, it might be in Civil War, where it's like, try to remember, and they're playing the piano, and it's like he's like in front of MIT, and he's telling them like, that was the last thing my dad said to me. That was actually Beck's technology, where he said he was going to change the world, and he like laughs at it. He named it Barf or whatever, and he's like, Tony Stark made a mockery of me. So he's got a mission against Tony Stark, and Quentin's got all these drones and stuff, and we find out secretly that like they're doubling the damage, and it's like, this is all just an illusion. The fire elementals are all an illusion. There's no real threat. Mysterio just wants to be the next hero, the Avengers level threat hero, and I'm like, oh man, dude, so good, but this is so messed up. And so Peter eventually finds that out, and he's trying to stop him, and it's when he meets with MJ where she's like, wait, that's just an illusion or whatever, and he's like, oh my God, I made a huge mistake. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I got to figure this out. And it's just great because he's going around. Guys, I didn't talk about the Night Monkey scene where he puts on the stealth suit and he goes to fight with Mysterio, and Ned and his girlfriend are up in there, and he's like, oh my God, is that Spider-Man? And he's like, no, that must be like the European ripoff. He's like, I've seen him on the news. And she's like, what's his name? And he's like, Night Monkey. And she's like, oh really? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, Night Monkey. And I'm like, oh man, that's so good, dude. And he's like, what? And it's just really great. The stealth suit looks awesome too. And it's just really cool that he's got all these different suits. Guys, we get this amazing scene towards the end where it's Happy and I almost said Tony, but Peter in like the Quinjet or whatever. And Happy's like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't trust you before, whatever. But he's like, here you go. He's like, you need a new suit or whatever. And Peter starts building it, and he's just like looking at him, and he's like moving the screens around, and he looks just like Tony. God, it's so good. And he's like, okay, how about this? Change the velocity of this, whatever. And Happy has a moment where he's looking at him. He's like, huh. And he's like, what? And he's like, nothing. He's like, you take care of the suit. And he's like, I'll take care of the music. And he puts on AC/DC's Back in Black. And I'm like, let's fucking go, dude. Let's fucking go, Happy. And I'm like, this is a damn movie, guys. The action is great. Characters are great. All the interactions with the students are great. Guys, we get Leon Black from Curb. God, I forget his name. I'll put it in here. But JB Smoove, of course. How could I forget that? Yeah, we get Guilfoyle, JB Smoove. It's great. Zendaya's character is much better. Guys, this is just a fantastic movie from start to finish. Every frame in this movie is great. The twist is great. I didn't think there's anything wasted in here. Just a fantastic movie, guys, from start to finish. I was not bored at all in this one. And like I said, all of the issues I had with No Way Home. It's like they listened to me and they solved all of that. Now, there's been a few movies since then. We've had Infinity War and Endgame. There's Tony Stark influenced heavily in here. You get the great scene where Peter's going over there and he sees a mural of the Iron Man, and he's like, look, I don't know if I can take this. And there's a great scene where he sits down with Quentin back in the bar, and he's like just having a beer. And he's like, man, Tony left these glasses to me. And there's a couple times where Peter misplaces the glasses, and he's like, those are just on the floor. He's like, yeah. He's like, those are $1 billion AR glasses, dude. Like, he's like, those are so powerful. And he's like, oh, sorry, I didn't notice. And he gives them to Quentin initially, and he's like, oh, it looks pretty good on you. And he just gives it to him. And he's like, I don't know if that was meant for me. And, we don't know yet. And Happy questions him, and he's like, Peter trusted you, but it's like, are you the right guy? And it's this great journey where it's like, it really is like a coming of age, but on the next level. And I just like this so much more than Homecoming. And I'm so glad that they went this direction, guys. And the effects are awesome. And it's just really great. And I was very interested in the story and the Quentin Beck turn where he's like now the villain. I was like, oh man, because Mysterio's always been the villain, but he starts out as a hero, and it's like, oh, Mysterio just wants to be the hero in this universe. Awesome, dude. And it's like, maybe he did come in a multiverse, and maybe he does want to save his planet, or now he wants to be the hero. And it's like, nah, dude, he's just trying to get the fame. He just wants the fame and publicity of like an Iron Man. And so he's trying to trick everyone with these illusions. And there's like drones that are shorting out. He's like, why is this happening? He's like, we need to fix this drone. And he tracks down Peter. And there's a fucking amazing sequence, guys, where Peter is like basically like tripping balls, and he's going through, and we don't know what's real. And I was like, I don't know what I'm seeing, guys. And he goes through this illusion, and then eventually Nick Fury shoots back in the back, and you're like, oh, great, Nick Fury came to save the day. But that's actually an illusion too. And I was like, oh my God, you're like, what is real now? It's like, I'm like watching Inception over here. And Peter then keeps tumbling through, and eventually he figures it out, and they start taking down Quentin one by one. But it's just awesome, dude. There's like so many fantastic visual effects. And I think those are kind of the larger points, guys. I don't want to go too long, but there's just so many awesome moments from start to finish in this movie. Okay, guys, now we're going to go to issues or worst scenes I had with this movie. Guys, there's not many, to be honest. There's very few things wrong with this movie. I don't know, man. I will say, guys, recording this right now, off the top of my head, I'm not going to edit this. I'm not going to give you guys, I'm going to let you guys know kind of how the sausage is made. I don't know, man. I had a lot of issues with Homecoming, and I don't know if any of those issues stand up here. And I don't think I can, off the top of my head, I don't think I can think of a single issue. I mean, I guess Ben was kind of like shitty, one-dimensional. Guess he was kind of like, oh, fuck you, Peter. I'm going to try and hook up with MJ. And it's like, what, dude? Like, Ben, I thought you were cool, but I guess not. But I don't know, man. The blip stuff is awesome. The Peter and MJ stuff is awesome. When I hated MJ in Homecoming, and it's just a really well-made movie. The Quentin flip is so awesome because he's such a hero at the beginning, and then it's like, now he is a villain like we know Mysterio, and his effects are so cool, and he looks fucking awesome. And just like, I love that he's like thanking the people. Guys, we bring back the person from the Obadiah Stane yells at from Iron Man 1, where he says, Tony Stark built this suit with in a cave with a box of scraps, and he yells at that guy, and that guy is back. And I'm like, what a callback, dude. How can you be mad at that? How can you be mad at that? And then there's another guy from another movie or whatever, but he's like driving the bus, and he's like, kids are in the kill range. And I was like, whoa, chill down a little bit, dude. We don't need to be killing kids in this. And I love how they put all of Peter's friends in the opera house, and then they just end up leaving. And it's like, hey, we put you in the opera house so that Peter could fight like without worrying about his friends, which is the whole thing. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't honestly. I'm sure there are some flaws with this movie. I'm sure there are some things I didn't like, but off the top of my head, I can't think of anything. And so we're gonna kind of skip this section. Okay, guys, that brings us to the score, guys. This movie, it doesn't slap. This movie does not slap. This movie fucking rips, dude. This movie rips so hard. This movie is a 9.7. Guys, this is a fucking great movie. I was like, what a film, guys. You know, the soundtrack, the action, the characters, all the issues I had in Homecoming, guys, like I said, all resolved here. I loved Peter a lot more in this one. More Ned, but it was much better. We kind of took them out of the high school element, and it's like they're still in high school, but they're going on a field trip, and it's like the fact that they're like overseas, it's great. And we get more Guilfoyle. We get the introduction of Baby Smoove, and that's great. And it's like Quentin Beck being like, hey, I'm a super cool superhero. Oh, actually, I'm just trying to fool the media so that I can act like a superhero. Super awesome. It's such a scummy move. And the fact that like people who have been thwarted by Iron Man in the past are working with Quentin is awesome to create this awesome technology. And the fact that there's like drones doing this, and it's like the drones can make people believe whatever they want. Like all that destruction was real. And Nick Fury's like, that was all fake. And it's like, yeah, dude. That was all fake, and it's crazy to believe. And the fact that they like take them drones, and Peter has to like, you know, think about what's real, and there's a fake Nick Fury, and it's just awesome, dude. The whole movie is awesome, and it's really funny. And I didn't think there was a wasted scene, and I just had such a blast with this movie where I'm like, this is such a movie, guys. This is such a fucking movie. This is a damn film. I love this movie. This is the second time I've seen this movie, guys, and I really loved it the first time, and I was like, is it going to hold up? I don't know, because some movies haven't held up, and I wasn't super high on Homecoming, and I was like, dude, it's so good. And there's let me check, guys. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 movies between Homecoming and when this comes out. And guys, let me rank the movie, or let me list off the movies right now for you. Thor Ragnarok, my number 1 MCU movie. Black Panther, incredible movie. I think I put it number 3. We had Infinity War, Ant-Man the Wasp. We had Captain Marvel, and then we had Endgame. Guys, they learned a whole lot between that time, Homecoming, and now, and it's like, it shows, dude. They just made such a better film, and I was just really, really happy with it. I just couldn't be happier with this, and like, this was a Spider-Man movie I wanted in the MCU, and I'm so glad it happened. And yeah, it's just an awesome movie, and it's there's a reason that I put it so high. Okay, guys, that brings us to the rankings here, guys. And yes, we have a new number 2, guys. So we have Spider-Verse, and as much as I loved Amazing Spider-Man 2, guys, I have to admit this is a better film. This is an awesome movie. I could watch this movie at any time. This movie goes to number 2 here, guys. It's just so good, guys. It's so good, guys. Like, I was really worried that I was like, the second time watching Far From Home, is it going to be as good? Because I didn't actually watch it in theaters. I bought the 4K when it came out, and I was like, all right, I got to watch this because I kind of forgot about it. And I watched it, and I didn't really have high expectations because Homecoming wasn't that good to me. And then I watched this, and I was like, my God, dude, like, what a movie. And like, I forgot they mentioned the multiverse stuff, and it's like they're just setting it up, and now we've had Loki and all this stuff, and now it's like tomorrow night, guys, my mind is going to explode, I'm sure, from the multiverse, just incredible action that they're putting in there, and Green Goblin and Electro and Doc Ock, and I cannot wait, guys. And what a way to just build up to No Way Home tomorrow. And man, I'm going to try not to score No Way Home too high, because I'm sure it's going to blow my mind. I'm going to be like, what did I just watch? But guys, watching this, I'm like, I can't deny this anymore. This is a great movie. And I feel like tomorrow I'm just going to be like, yeah, you know, sometimes, guys, you watch movies and you think they're great, and then afterwards you realize they're not so great. I think No Way Home, we'll see, but I think No Way Home, I'm going to be like, no, that was perfect. That was perfect. That was an amazing movie. And again, I don't think it's going to take Spider-Verse down, but it could. It's the one movie that might. So we'll see, guys. But those are how my rankings shape out through almost all of the movies so far. Okay, guys, well, that's it. That is another episode of Project Parker. So thank you guys for checking out the channel. Thanks for checking out Project Parker and Project Potter to the channel. Go like, comment, subscribe, guys. And then the next review that you guys will get, that's right, guys, that will be No Way Home. I have a shirt coming in, guys, honestly, for No Way Home. Right now, it's saying it's going to be delivered Monday. So I was hoping to do these all in a row, but I didn't plan it very well. I ordered the shirt really late. And so it's probably going to be a little bit later. The No Way Home review might go up a few days late, but I am seeing the movie tomorrow night, guys. Cannot wait. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. Yeah, until next time, guys. Stay swinging.